Hello everyone, Matt from Model Minutes here, and welcome back to the workbench for another unboxing. Today we're taking a look at this, the Tamiya Panzer Kampfwagen II in 1/35 scale. So join me as I take a look inside the box and see what we have got. So on the outside here, we've got quite a bit of information at the top here. Modelling skills helpful if under 10 years of age. So if you're over 10 years of age, I guess you don't need any modelling skills. Cement and paint not included. We've got a crew of 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, apparently included, and it's easy to assemble. So this is like almost a beginner type kit. On the edges, we've got some more information about other tanks which are in the range, and if we flip over to the other side, naturally there's some stuff in, I think that's Japanese, that I can't understand. And then on the thin edges, we've got the same information as on the front, and we've got an item code here of 35009. So that is pretty much it. Let's open the box up and see what we've got inside. And as you can see, it's all quite neatly packaged. So let's get everything out. The box seems to be just about the right size so that nothing is moving around freely in there. So inside the box itself, there is actually some information. There is, let's have a look. It says, can't read that. Important information concerning this kit, read the instructions. Yeah, basically just read that. If you want to take a closer look and read that in your own time, feel free. So we have an instruction booklet, I think again in Japanese, so I can't read that because that's not my primary language. Tamiya Tech Tips. Ooh, it's like a little helpful hints and tips guide, isn't it? So different tools that you can get in the Tamiya range, tips on how to cut your parts and clean up the excess flash, or where the sprue gates were, drilling out holes using cement. Oh, there's stuff on the back as well. Test fitting, removing metal plating. I don't think we have any of that. And then tips on painting. So that's a very helpful tip sheet there. And then we get into the actual paperwork. So let's see if we can find the instructions. So the instructions here, we've got an absolute wealth of information on the actual Panzer II. And it's even got breakdowns of the different companies and regiments and where they were used. So this is a desert version, so North Africa. And then as we come further down, we get into the painting instructions for the actual figures. So the figures are included, and there is an absolute wealth of information on there. So flipping over, we have the assembly instructions for the actual Panzer. And there is quite a bit of information on here. This would take quite a while to read all the way through. So let's see if we can do an abridged version. And it looks as though we do the bottom of the hull, and we add the various drive sprockets and wheels. Then we move on to the top to the turret, and we add some smaller details, and then we add our tracks. So the tracks look to be rubber band tracks, and they've suggested the heated nail method to melt the tracks together. And we've got the figures here, how the figures are assembled. And we've got a sprue map down here as well, which is always helpful. And then there's a nice little picture of the Tamiya Panzer II with its figures in a diorama with some other stuff, presumably from the Tamiya range. Very nice. I would have liked to have seen this in colour just to help with painting, but I am going to have to sit down and do a good old read of the instructions. So applying decals then. So we've got a little book here on how to apply decals. Actually, it's just a little fold out sheet. Unfortunately, I'm going to struggle to read the instructions here, but it tells you pretty much where the decals go depending on the paint scheme that you're doing. So full disclosure, unfortunately, for some reason, my audio wasn't recorded in the subsequent clips from this point on, so I've had to redo it. So I've already had everything out because I've already done the unboxing once, but I'm going to whiz back through it again and cover off the points which I covered previously. So what did we have? We need to look at the transfers first. So we've already looked at all the paperwork, and the transfers will be the next thing to look at. And the transfers are Here we go. They are printed to a really good quality. The registration on there is pretty neat. The white and the yellows are really vibrant. They do look a little bit thick, but on the whole, not too bad. We have got a copyright date down here of 2001, but that is, I'm led to believe, the date of the transfers. So the transfers have obviously been redesigned and reissued over the years. So this is a 2001 copyright on the transfers. So, plastic parts then. We've got one, we'll start together, 2, 3, 4 khaki coloured sprues, plus the upper and lower hull components and some black polyplasticky retaining pins. We have got tracks as well, but we'll look at them towards the end. So let's look at the sprues first. And on this sprue, you can see we've got some figures. And on the whole, the moulding is to a pretty good quality. The plastic feels ever so slightly greasy, but it's not really an issue. The details on this are pretty well reproduced, but we do have a mould seam down all of the figures, which will need cleaning up. There is a little bit of flash in a few places as well, but on the whole, the mould quality is pretty decent. On the next sprue then, we've got our tank commander, as well as the main wheels for the tank. The details on there, again, pretty good. We've got some nice rivet detail. You can see even like on the boots of the tank commander, you see he's got like laces on there. They've done a really nice job. They spent a lot of time working on this one, I can tell. Bit of an ejector pin there on his back, so I might need to tidy that up when I come to build this. But yeah, pretty nice looking model. This sprue has just extra detail parts for the figures. I believe these are bases for the figures, but I probably won't be using them. I think it's worth pointing out at this moment that there is a copyright date of 1971 on the tooling itself, which does go some way to explaining certain elements about this kit, I think. On this final sprue, we've got some of the smaller details which go on the top of the tank, as well as the turret. And that is pretty much it. A bit of a mould seam down there, but yeah, on the whole, moulding is pretty decent. There is a bit of flash. It's not necessarily up to the modern standards that Tamiya have, but it is still a really nice looking kit. However, speaking about its age, we do have rubber band tracks. So when I was looking at this bit earlier, I noticed that you have your lower hull and it has a battery box here. So this kit, along with these, because these parts go inside of your running wheels to allow them to rotate freely, this can be motorized. I believe Tamiya sells motorizing sets. Put your batteries in, put a switch in there, put a motor in up here, and then you can drive your tank along. Potentially remote control, not entirely sure. I've not experienced that firsthand. But yeah, something that's out of scope for this particular kit is not included, which again will be reflected in how cheap this kit was. And then we had our tank top here. Again, the details on this are really nice too. There is a little bit of the plastic needs cleaning on the edge here because that's where it came off of the sprue. But yeah, back to the tracks. So the tank tracks are the rubber band kind. When you've assembled it, it should allow your tank to roll along quite freely, provided you've done it correctly. And after you've assembled your track, you can use the hot nail method to join the plastic together here. Not necessarily the best way of doing tracks anymore. I know that single link tracks do exist, but yeah, this does hark back to a time where rubber band tracks were the norm. And that is pretty much it in a nutshell. We've got our rubber band tracks. We had some poly plastic what are they, like retaining lugs which hold your wheels in place so that they can rotate freely. We have our upper and lower hull parts which are molded to a really nice quality with a good level of detail. And then we had 4 sprues all molded in khaki colour plastic, which are again to a pretty good quality, but there is a little bit of flash and some mold seams which will need cleaning up as you go through the build. But on the whole, it doesn't look overly complicated. As a reminder, we did also have our decals, which look to be really quite nice, and a variety of paperwork, including a wealth of information in your instructions, but could benefit from being printed in colour in the future. But again, this does hark back to a slightly older time. All of which, of course, comes contained within a rather attractive box, which is to the normal format from Tamiya. And I think it is worth mentioning on here that we did have a copyright date. Let me try and find it over here of, no, it's not that side. Where is it? It's on here. I know it is. There it is. Copyright 1971. So my research has led me to understand that this particular kit is a 1971 tooling, and it hasn't really changed since then. It's been released pretty much as it is. Naturally, they've updated the transfers, but other than that, the instructions and the plastic parts have remained the same, and I can't really find it being reboxed or re-released in any other different format. So it just seems like this is the kit and this is what you've had ever since 1971. But despite its age, it's still a very good representation of the tank, and it shouldn't be too difficult to build, so potentially quite suitable for someone just starting out with tanks. Bearing that in mind though, I am of the understanding there is a 2008 version which is a different tooling but represents the Panzer II in a Battle of France 1940 kind of use. I'm not sure it comes with all the same sort of figures, so that's potentially another thing to look at. But as I've alluded to, this is an older tooling kit, which is still pretty decent, but it wasn't exactly expensive. So how much did I pay for this? Well, I paid £12.50 for this. And the reason for that was because it came with next day shipping. You can get it cheaper. You can get it for around £10 here in the UK at the time of making this video. But upwards of about £15 seems to be the high end for this. Anything over that, you're probably going a bit outside of what people are selling it for. So £12.50 was sort of in the middle. And the great thing about that is that it doesn't exactly break the bank for what you're getting. So yeah, on the whole, something that I'm looking forward to getting stuck into and having a bit of fun with. But let me know down in the comments what you thought of my assessment of this kit and whether you agree with my comments. As always, a quick shout out to my channel members and patrons for the extra support they give the channel. Take a look at the link in the description to find out more about how you can get involved and also the exclusive perks that you will receive. There are alternative ways to help support the channel though, and again, full information is in the description. The best way to support this channel for free though is by subscribing with those notifications turned on so you never miss a modelling upload. And finally, the last thing to say to you is a massive thanks for watching this one, and I'll see you on the workbench again next time.